My soup, and our hostess is Viscountess Boyle.
England.
English, right.
Waiter, waiter, there's a fly in my soup.
Oh, yeah.
Angleterre, 3 points. France.
Waiter, there is a fly in my soup.
Do not worry, sir. The spider on the bread roll will get in.
La France, 3 points. Deutschland.
Waiter, there is a fly in my soup.
Jewish wine!
Deutschland. Deutschland, 6 Punkten. Israel.
Seite, there's a fly in my soup.
That'll be £1 extra, sir. Keep going,
Israel, 3 points. Ireland.
Waiter,
Yes, sir.
there's a fly in my soup.
Don't worry, sir. I'll save him.
Good evening. Oh, welcome to another show. I had to put that in. It always cracks me up, that one does. It's the late, great Spike Milligan. Well, tonight, we've got all kinds of things going on. I was hoping to upload an interview that was done about 5 or 6 years ago between Richie Allen and Natalie Rowe. And I tried to load it up, but the powers that be, I think, are hovering, and I couldn't load it, but for technical reasons. I don't know why. But it was quite controversial what she said, because if you don't know who Natalie Rowe is, Natalie Rowe was the madame, shall we say, who was very friendly with, here it is, George Osborne, the ex-chancellor of the Exchequer, and a member of the Bullingdon Club, and an ex-public schoolboy. And Natalie Rowe, who's got a flower over her face there, she was quite explicit of what they got up to. I'll probably mention it later on in the programme. But tonight I was going to cover several things. Now, Ken phoned the other day, the comedian, and he's been looking at the Queen. Don't know if he fancies her or not. She's a bit old for him. And he said, can you mention this on your programme? So I mentioned this for him. He said, she looks fake. And so does old Charlie boy, And he said, he's always been brought up to believe that the Queen doesn't do interviews. Well, let's face it, she doesn't, does she? I mean, when Diana died, she did, shall we say, an announcement to the nation, but she didn't do an interview. But apparently, I didn't see it, she did an interview, which is rare. And he said, it didn't look like her, it all looked fake. So, be interested in what you've, any feedback on that. So, let's have a look. My word, we got a lot in chat tonight. So I don't think I'll be able to read them all out. Who have we got tonight? So it says here, what we got here? Hello, Chris. Looks like I get to catch a live finally. Oh, that's good. Hang on. Yeah, I think I am live. Yeah, here we go. And we've got, oh, by the way, Chris, thanks for the advice you gave with YouTube, with the comments. I've got my fingers crossed here. Appears to be working. So, and it was funny. It was something that was just a few little tweaks, and it works. So there we go. I won't speak too quickly though. I'm back. I hope. Oh dear, oh Lord, they're certainly attacking this site tonight. Just went off for no apparent reason. Sorry about that, everybody. But hey. Anyway, where was I? Thanks, Phil. It's very kind of you. I'm sorry for that brief intermission there. We've got here. Hello, Chris from Magic J. Hello, we've got Angela. Good evening. Hope everyone is well. Oh, isn't that kind? Hello, Angela. Got Ralph. Hello, Squirrel Girl. Hello, Chris and everyone. And we've got some greetings down here, and we've got Louise Wilcox. Hello, Louise. And Kevin Frozen. Yes, I know. It's totally obvious. And Ralph. Yep, it's Gremlins. Yes. I've got a funny feeling that Prince Philip is looking in on me. Whatever's behind him. I'll let you in on that in a few minutes. Angela Davis, I saw the interview and it didn't look like her. Oh, he's talking about old Queenie. It didn't look like her. Saw one with Charles on Sky a while back, and I don't think it was him. No, I wasn't. Well, going on from what I said about, you got a good point there, Angela, about Prince Philip. I've decided, a bit sympathetic. I'm going to try. I know the roles are getting a bit hard up, aren't they? I mean, let's face it. They've got all those houses to look after and that. So I've decided to give them a little bit of help with some free advertising. You probably think he's definitely lost it this time. Well, here's a special advert, and I hope you like it.
Are you tired of having shit run down your legs and soiling the top of your shoes? Then look no further than the Prince Philip's incontinence trousers. Tied securely round the knees, these trousers can hold a day's full of shit. And as a special offer with these trousers, you can also get a free I'm a War Hero fake medals and a Thunderbirds Spencer Tracy type stash to wear around your shoulder.
Philip, leave the corgis alone. You don't know where they've been. And do your flies up.
Sorry, I was in a bit. Had a bit of spare time the other day. Hope you like it. So that's why I think Prince Philip was probably looking in. Now, what I was going to talk about, I've been doing a lot of research for a show on Wednesday with Caroline, and it's surprising when you look into something. It doesn't matter what it is. I tend to sort of go into directions that you never really thought possible. Now, Caroline and I have been looking into eugenics, and the more we look into it, the more things start to reveal. You think, wow, that's quite something, what's going on here, And what we're going to look at is, hang on, I've written this down because I can't remember it. I've lost it. Here we are. What is the similarity between, similarities between, here it comes, Nick Hancock, Orlando Ferguson, the Flat Earth bloke, the alleged moon landings, and Kinky Kinsey? What do they all have in common? And there's a clue. It's to do with science. And all will be revealed on the 6 o'clock show this Wednesday. Naughty and I. I bet you some clever sod gets it. I bet someone does tonight. I have to keep quiet about it though until Wednesday, would I? Let's have a look. I bet it's probably someone's got it already in chat. Let's have a quick look. What have we got here? Now, what we got? Oh, well, we've got a few comments about Prince Philip. Prince Philip is too busy turning himself into a deadly virus. We got here clones or clowns. Yeah, you got a good point there. Yeah, because it was right. Actually, going back to that, Phil. Yeah, because he wanted to reincarnate into a deadly virus. What a nice man. I don't think there's a. Did you ever see that? I wish I would have recorded it. That interview that Al Fayed did. You know that he owned a Harrods, in which he was saying about Prince Philip. I can't say it because Prince Philip's got very rich lawyers, but I'll try and break it out for probably next week's program. What he said about Prince Philip, quite interesting. You're a little too old for Philip. Yeah, Philip. Now, agree that right. Here we go. There we go. Pants. Yes. I suppose if you're American, they are pants, aren't they? Trousers. Right. Now this is Phil the Greek. Angela's talking about. I think he hasn't been well since the. Not that I'm suggesting anything, mind you. Do you think he actually got one? I don't think they have. I think it's a harmless piece of crap. They've actually. I don't think they've had anything. I think they're just professional liars, to be straight with you, you know. And I have 3 clones: me, myself, and I. Yes. Well, let's face it, we're clones of our parents, aren't we? We're half and half. You know. No, I don't say I don't dress like my mum. Yeah, that's right. He wants to wipe out humanity. And that was Chris back. Chris, the shows with Caroline are really good. Glad she brought up the sewage in Spain, March 19. That's right. Yeah, they found COVID. Excuse me, keep spelling these things and not saying them out loud, but I think that YouTube sort of they notice catchwords. So if you don't say those words, hopefully I might be all right. Few know about that or bring it up. Few channels offer that kind of research. Yeah. Apparently they found that what's supposed to be the pantodemic, as I call it, March 19 in the sewage in Spain. So that's interesting. One doesn't have clones, one sees doubles. Yes. Well, you know, Prince Philip, yes, Chris, I agree with you. Kind. Yeah, you know, Prince Philip, you know, when he goes to bed, I don't think they sleep together, the Queen and Phil the Greek, but I think he says, good night, mother of 4, father of 2. Because I reckon the 2 younger ones, you know, Randy Andy and the other geezer, are not his. And yes, it's quite interesting. I knew a neighbour of mine was on the Palace Guard. He was in the police force, and he told me that the royals work like clockwork. His ex-neighbour, he moved away. It's probably because of me. And he said that there was a chap who looks the image of Randy Andy, who the Queen is exceptionally friendly with, and he would come in and have dinner with her, and he'd leave. Hello, it just keeps freezing tonight. I think we'll have to do a short program tonight. I'm sorry about this, folks. It's technicalities. It's beyond me. I don't know what's going on. I've got a feeling that they're trying to hijack this program or something, because I couldn't actually save the other week's program as something that I just couldn't do. You know, it's and I have had a few kicked off. You know. Anyway, on with the program, and I was looking at. Have you noticed that there's a type of person that I call the it's for charity types? Now, when Thatcher got into power in 1979, soon after in the 1980s, what I believe she did is a problem, reaction, solution. You know, created a problem, got a reaction, offered the solution. So what did she do? She caused mass unemployment. I mean, some people did very well under her. Some people didn't. and I remember the early 80s were a horrendous time. And there was a lot of unemployment. And then you create a problem, get a reaction, then offer a solution, which is charity. And there she was posing outside number 10 with Jimmy Shovel. Oh, sorry, I can't take him off. And, collecting for the NSPCC. We all know about Jimmy Savile. And there was a kind of type. I don't know if you noticed this. There's a sort of charity smile. It's for charity. And it's a sort of a false smile, isn't it? So, and do you remember those? They used to have these telephones. I mean, all they've got now is the BBC with their bloody children in need. And I really do believe that these figures that they say that, they've collected so much for charity and all that, excuse my language, it's bullshit. I really do believe that. Because whenever there's any problems with the economy, where there's unemployment, they always seem to make it look as if there's lots of money swirling around because people are giving money to charity. Early 80s, mass unemployment. There was another neighbour that worked at the unemployment office, as it's called, and he said that he told my parents at the time that they just don't know what to do. They're absolutely working flat out. They've never had so many people going through the door. They're unemployed. And then what do we have? Charity and telethons telling us that there's loads of people giving loads of money to charity. Bullshit. I don't believe it at all. I really don't believe that they raise the amount of money that they say they do. And I think there's BBC Children in Need. I mean, if I said, suppose I said to you, I've raised £3,000 for charity. Prove it. I can't. Can I? I could put big signs up, I've paid, let's say £4,000. Yeah, I've raised that for charity. And there's always an opportunity for the worst bastards, psychopaths, and the real scummy bags saying, when people talked about them, they always say, they've raised a lot of money for charity. Yeah, they never put their hand in their own pocket, though, did they? Ever. And I got fed up with seeing these rich gits telling people to give money to charity. Yeah, but they wouldn't, would they? And it's a way, I believe, all right, there's a lot of very good charities around, and I'm not condemning them all, but the big ones are just businesses as far as I'm concerned, and I don't give to charity. If some poor sod in the street who's hungry, I'll give to that person, but I won't give to a big charity, because to me it's like giving to a business. And I've noticed now it's for charity has now moved on to the and I was on the internet the other day, and an advert come on. It was on the the social media, Facebook, and it's an advert for Watford Football Club. They're doing Bill Gates specials in the arm, and there's a woman. She's probably a very nice person, and she had exactly the same charity smile as they had in the 80s. Come along, it doesn't hurt. She didn't say this. It's only a little prick. Who knows? It's the same sort of thing. Now, somebody sent me a video which is very interesting about this COVID. And this is a recording from May last year. And just take note of what is said, because this is Chris Shitty, as I call him, or Witness. Stay tuned. Here it comes.
It clearly is a very serious epidemic, but equally the fact that actually the great majority of people will not die from this. And I'll just repeat something I said right at the beginning, because I think it's worth reinforcing. Most people, a significant proportion of people will not get this virus at all, at any point in the epidemic, which is going to go on for a long period of time. Of those who do, some of them will get the virus without even knowing it. They will have the virus with no symptoms at all, asymptomatic carriage, and we know that happens. Of those who get symptoms, the great majority, probably 80%, will have a mild or moderate disease. Might be bad enough for them to have to go to bed for a few days, not bad enough for them to have to go to the doctor. An unfortunate minority will have to go as far as hospital, but the majority of those will just need oxygen and will then leave hospital. And then a minority of those will end up having to go to severe and critical care, and some of those, sadly, will die. But that's a minority. It's 1% or possibly even less than 1% overall. And even in the highest risk group, this is significantly less than 20%, i.e. the great majority of people, even the very highest groups, if they catch this virus, will not die. And I've really wanted to make that point really clearly.
Do you know, for example, now how many people in the country have recovered from the virus and are now perfectly healthy again, such as the Prime Minister, for example?
Well, we have data. Obviously, you don't know everybody for the reasons Chris has said, because a large number of people have been asymptomatic or haven't gone to the doctor. But we do have recovery rates. They are available, and I see absolutely no reason why they shouldn't be made available.
Yes, we certainly have hospital recovery rates.
Yes, so we have, in a sense, what we have, and this is where I wouldn't want people to overread them. But it's important. They're perfectly open data. Actually, it's perfectly possible to get hold of them if people want. Is we have data on the people who got as far as hospital. How many of those left hospital? But of course, they're at the very severe end of the spectrum. All the ones I was talking about before that point, they make a full recovery, they don't enter the statistics. Now, they increasingly will enter the statistics now that we have a better testing capacity that means that we're picking out more of the milder cases in the community. But I think if people look at those, to go back to your point, what I wouldn't want is for people then to say, oh, well, that's and the mortality rate is higher than I expected. That's because the recovery rates we have are for people who are severe enough to get to hospital. And that's even so, that is a majority. So it is important that in a sense it's read in that context.
Thanks very much, Tom.
So, that was back in May, 11th of May, 2020. And they've shot themselves in the foot, haven't they? They really have shot themselves. I mean, what that bloke Twitty said is, well, what they're talking about is seasonal FLU. Yeah. I mean, when you look at the statistics from the Office of National Statistics, if what they're saying, the government, that which they've been ramping up through the year artificially so that people can have the euthanasia thingamy-bob, then to me it's obviously a fraud, because to me truth does not need fact checkers, doesn't need to be shall we say censored in any way, because truth is pure, 100% pure. I was talking to Caroline the other day, and I said, if us two went on the radio, and so supposing somebody offered us several £1 million to make out that we were Arctic explorers. Now, I have never been to the Arctic in my life. The nearest I've got to the Arctic is the border country of Scotland. That's about it, really. It's about the furthest north I've been. So I could spend about half an hour on the internet and look up, all about the Arctic and that, and I could lecture to people and say, oh yes, it was marvellous as we went across the snow, and we saw polar bears and all this crap. And people might believe the bullshit. But then if a real Arctic explorer came along, within seconds, he or she would realise I was talking a load of bullshit. So if I was desperate, then you'd censor that person, say, oh, he's talking a load of rubbish, and you push them out as quickly as possible. You keep away from them. You want to speak to the thickos, or the people like myself has never been to the Arctic. And this is what I'm seeing, because truth, as I say, does not need to be censored in any way, don't need fact checkers or anything like that, because it's pure, doesn't need it. A psyop, which is lies, does. So what we've just seen, they're basically telling us that what we're being told now is a complete pack of lies. It really is. And I just don't know. To me, it's a sort of mass hypnosis. It's the only way I could explain it. I mean, the amount of bozos you see walking around with their sanitary towels over their mouths, I mean, it's unbelievable. I haven't worn one from day one of this. And the reason why, I do not want to have a load of bacteria multiplying around my mouth, thank you very much, as well as other people's bacteria going and this nice, warm, moist area. I think it does more harm than good, because eventually it causes bacterial pneumonia, which I don't particularly want. But going back to this sort of charity look, I've actually hit on a phrase. I call it ENPS. It's FNPS. Where did I get the E from? FNPS is fake nice person syndrome. So when you see that, it's fake nice person syndrome. So, you know, if you see an advert for that with the, and so excuse me, are you suffering from fake nice person syndrome? Right, now what I was going to go on to, and I will do if the internet's working okay, quick check in chat before I go on to the next subject. Ding, where are we? We got here lots of little pricks of oh yeah, that was that film, wasn't it? I will agree, Ralph. Chris Whitty, if you want proof that aliens live on Earth, I think he would be it. He looks like an alien, does he? And it says here, Whitty is like a Chinaman facing the anal swab. He's just covering his ass. What we got here? When you this is Chris again. When you were doing charity swap, I was reminded of that 2-minute clip of that guy talking about psychopaths. Seems like some sort of mental makeup. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Actually, I've got that. My God, bullshit. Oh, that was that film I just showed. It's got here. Some spread lies, others know the truth. Hello. Ad populum Latin doesn't make it so. Ad populum Latin does not make it so. And we've got lavender moon crystals. Hello. Why are the minority, not hypnotized, and the majority are another mystery? Yes, that is quite interesting. Yes. Well, when you think about it, how did Stalin, Mao, how did all they get away? I mean, Stalin, they reckon he wiped out about 60 million people. I don't really know the full figure. Some people say 40 million, some say 60 million. But he couldn't have done it himself. It has this sort of like pyramid of people. Okay, yes. And these people at the time do not believe they're criminals for shooting people in the head and whatever. I mean, look at Mao. He wiped out 1 billion people off the face of the earth. 1 billion people. They reckon plus or minus again. They don't know the full figure. How did he do it? And to think that the Bolsheviks got in with only 7% support. Remember that, 7%. And Mao got in with around about the same, or it was probably less, about 5%. This kind of mass hypnosis, it's very strange. And let's go on here. Cider guy, hello. Visited Bath today. 7 out of 20 face nappies. I despair. Well, it's worse than that round here. I mean, I go to the supermarket. I'm the only one not wearing a face nappy. I might see it say another 1 or another 2, but they've got all the, what do they call it? The charity sign round their neck. And I refuse to wear that. What I do is I just show this card as I walk through the door at breakneck speed. And it just says exempt on it, and I just walk straight in and I put it back in my pocket because I'm not an exhibitionist. I don't really want to walk around like that, you know. Sorry, 7 put of 10. 7 put of 10. Right. We got here. Bill, Ursula von der Leyen is the worst culprit of. I said Ursula von der Leyen is the worst culprit of false nice person syndrome. It's got here. Same here. I'm the only one not muzzled. That's right. To me, I don't know whether you find this. I find it offensive to speak to somebody who's got something over their face. You imagine me speaking here tonight saying, "Hello, everybody. How are you tonight?" It's rude. It's very, very rude. My culture and most people's culture, all right, unless it's religious, like the ladies in the Middle East. But even they're polite because they smile with their eyes. And they're very polite people. But putting religious culture aside, majority of the world, you want to see someone's face. You want to see them smiling. You want to see them happy. We're watching people's expressions because our subconscious is working all the time. And we don't realize it as we're walking down the road. We're eyeing people up and saying, is this a friendly person, not a friendly person, or whatever. But what we got here, side of it. I mean, out in the open, Chris, not indoors. It's like a cult in Bath, the cult of convid. Yeah. I've noticed it. Well, I live semi-rural where I live, and hang on, I'll just read this out a little bit later. And the best one I saw, I was driving along in my car down a country lane. There was a woman walking along. And those sort of welders gizmos they have on, the sort of clear plastic jobbies, and surgical gloves. And she's walking in the countryside. There's nobody there. And when you go past in your car, you go, I was doing about 30 miles an hour at a time, or less than that because it's a bit of a leafy lane. What is the matter with these people? Yeah, it says here, Chris, I don't live in a very left democratic, communist, socialist area, one of the least in the USA. But most of the time, I'm only one not masking. Yeah. I know what you mean, communist, socialist. Yeah. Depends on what state, I think. I think most of them are in the state of confusion. Now, I'm glad you said about the USA, because I was going to talk about public school. And when I say that, in America, it means something different to here. And in America, Chris might be able to explain it, but that is, a public school means a school that everybody goes to. In Britain, it means something completely different. A public school is an elitist school. So I make that clear, first of all. A public school is elitist. And these elite schools, they reckon that 2/3 of governments and parliament are ex-public school boys. And they are a kind of breed all on their own. Now, up to leaving school, I'd never met a public school boy, public school person or whatever in my life. I was born in a council house, working class. I don't like talking about class because I think people are people, whoever or whatever. And I was a bit of a loner, a bit of an individualist, and I left school. And when I started work, I came across some people that had been to public school, and it was like a sort of cultural shock because they thought differently. They were very different. And as I went further on in my career, I met quite a few people that had been to public school. And I have to admit, there were some were okay, very nice people, but there's quite a lot that had this sort of, I'm superior. I am the ruling class, and they had a rich mummy and daddy. I mean, that twat I spoke about a couple of programs back, who kept getting his bike nicked because he didn't have the common sense to put it inside of the building instead of outside. I won't go on about it again, but he was ex-public school, thick as two short planks. But I worked with a chap who was quite pleasant, and a lot of them their minds are mixed up. I've worked with several that had to visit psychiatrists because we look at Denham Elliott, the actor Denham Elliott. Now, Denham Elliott, he went to public school and he had a stutter. He hated it. It was hell. And there was a Japanese POW camp during World War II that was liberated. And when they spoke to one of the senior officers who was suffered under the Japanese system of POW camps, They said, well, how was it? And he said, well, compared with public school, it wasn't too bad. But what it is, it's something that trains people to run the country, so to speak. And I'm looking at the moment, I mean, this sort of public school system carried on as a kind of elitist thing. And then it went, I believe, underground in about the 1950s sometime. And I think they allow, shall we say, only a limited number of working class or ordinary sort of people into positions of authority, just to prevent a kind of revolution, you know, to say, well, if you work hard, you can, you know, make it to the top, but you've got to do what we tell you, sort of thing. And I really do believe that. I mean, John Major, I mean, he was a ticket collector on the buses, and he was booted out because he couldn't add up, and then he became Chancellor. Now, I think they allowed him through, and a few others, because it makes people think, oh, he's one of us. No, most of them in those positions are blackmailable. And I'm looking at the moment at, well, let's put it, I've said this again several times, usury scammers rule countries and they're unelected. Unelected civil servants run countries, and governments are just the Punch and Judy show to give everybody the impression that they're running things when they're not, and to take people's minds away from the first two facts. Now, when you look at the public school system, the way it worked, it actually groomed people into a kind of attitude that they are, shall we say, genetically superior to everybody else. And when they left public school, they went straight, they had a place in university, and then they went straight into a senior position in the civil service or politics or the military. If they're a bit thick, they went to the military. Oops, shouldn't say that. But seriously, that's the way it was. And that's why I think that during the First World War, the Germans called the British Army lions led by donkeys, because the idea, you know, keep going over the top and bit mowed down was absolutely ridiculous. And I think the Germans were spot on with their observation there. But what I was going to say, I worked with a chap in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, who was ex-public school, worked in the same office. And he had to see psychiatrists several times. I think he saw a psychiatrist on a sort of monthly basis or something. And what he was telling me about public school, it was a real eye-opener. For example, what happened with him, I mean, his parents were very, very moneyed. And at the age of 7, his parents, who were British, cleared off to Beirut and left him here in a public school. And I won't go into the nitty-gritty of what he went through. He told me quite a bit about it. And it's rather sad, actually, because it did something psychologically to him. And he suffered from chronic depression and panic attacks and things like that. But luckily, he had a girlfriend that understood him and helped him. So that's the good part. And it's sad, but it has a happy ending, this story. It's true. Anyway, he said that his parents went to Beirut and left him here. And he had brothers and sisters, and they went into other public schools, not his one. And he went to this particular public school, which was brutal. It was horrendous. And he went through hell. And he didn't see his parents until about 5 or 6 years later. They kept in Beirut, which incidentally was the diamond smuggling capital of the world, but we won't go into that. And suddenly 2 people, strange people, because I mean, he didn't go home at Christmas and that because he didn't have a home to go to, so he stayed there all the time. And suddenly these 2 strange people came along, and he sort of recognises one of them, but he didn't recognise his mother. That's sad, isn't it? And he realised, and this chap said, "Oh, I'm your father." And I went, "Oh," didn't recognise him because they'd been away for so long. And they paid out the money. They were super rich, and I think they paid for him to go through university, become an architect, and there you are, Bob's your uncle. Well, anyway, this story ends very nicely because he met this lady who I think she went to public school as well. She understood him, and he and her, they lived in some crap hole in London. And they moved out and they bought a property in East Anglia. And just before I left, found out that his partner was pregnant. And I heard later they had a baby daughter, and he's very happy. So they hopefully lived happily ever after. Isn't that nice? So that's. But going further with public school, this bozo, that's George Osborne. He went to public school, and then you've got Boris and the others. Now, I think I'll reserve this to next week because I was going to have this recording of Natalie Rowe on tonight, and it hasn't come on it. And she was interviewed by Natalie Rowe, as I say, was the madam who supplied the prostitutes for the Bullingdon Club, and she explains it perfectly. And it's better to hear it from her. So I'll try and get that loaded for next week, and you'll be able to hear it. And she is interviewed by Richie Allen in 2015, when all this hoo-ha about cocaine and all this, that, and the other was going on. And so I'll reserve that till next week. Let's have a look in chat. Do you want a gag before I go into chat? It's an old one. Well, it's not that old. Two dogs at the vet, you see. And one dog says to the other one, "What are you doing here?" He said, "Well," he said, "I'm afraid it's curtains for me." He said, "I'm going to be gassed." "Really?" I said, "What for?" He said, "Well," he said, "I bit my master. He kept biting me because I didn't like him." "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that." So the dog says, "I guess you're here for the same." So no, sorry. So anyway, so the other dog said, "What are you here for?" He said, "Well," he said, "the mistress was in the bath, and when she bent down, I jumped up and mounted her, you see, from the back." So, "Well," he said, "I suppose you're going to get gassed as well." No, he said, "I mean, I have my nails clipped." Anyway, I sorted that joke out, didn't I? Let's have a look in chat, shall we? Crumbs, we've got a lot here tonight. Sorry if I don't read them all out. I do actually apologise. This is about public school. They are bred for purpose. Freemasonic, demonly educated, all of them. Yes, it is demonic. It really is. I actually found a video of that chap Saul. Remember him, the artist? And he was talking about national service and the difference between public school boys doing it and everybody else. I'll try and dig it out. It's quite interesting. But they are bred to be a kind of group think, not individual think. And I found that all the way through, they are group think. They follow the leader, or they want to be the leader. One of the two. And my personal view is that there's probably good and bad public schools. I don't know, because I never went to one. I went to a comprehensive. But I think that if you were a bully, you probably would have loved it. You probably got on all right if you're a bully. If you're not a bully, pretty tough, I think. And to be dragged away from your parents at the age of 7, God. Some people it doesn't bother them. I don't know. We're all different, I suppose. But does it teach them to think? I don't think so. I think because you think about it, the public school system in the Victorian times, most of them went to India and were civil service over in India and probably had a while of a time. And but very boring. They all went into boring jobs, most of them. Right, what you got here? Phil. Phil. What could go? That could go some way into explaining why public school kids seem to lack empathy or compassion. That can only come from being brought up and surrounded by a loving family. Very good point. Very good point. I mean, a lot of them, that's why they look on their nannies as mothers, because it was their nanny that looked after them. Or this chap I worked with, he said the matron, where he was, he looked on as a mother. He felt closer to her, the matron, than his mother. I mean, imagine not recognising your mother. I mean, when she comes back, I mean, it's sort of, it's cold. It's there's another thing I noticed. Again, not with all of them, but the majority of them are very cold, very, I'm in charge. And you notice at office parties, the working class blokes were, like me, one side, and the public school the other side. You were sort of, and they spoke to you as if you were shit beneath them, you know. I mean, I remember when I was at school, as I say, apparently it was a grammar school that had to change over to the comprehensive system. So, you know, as I say, I went to a comprehensive school and it's mixed, girls and boys. And the teacher, he's probably dead now, was Mr. Hart, or is it Mr. Hart? And he used to walk around with his Batman gear on, you know, the old cloak. And he was on an ego trip, this bloke. And he was, apparently, I was told, how I found this out, when my parents went to a parents' evening, the other teachers, I don't think they liked Hart very much. And they spoke to my dad. One of the teachers said, did you know that Hart is ex-public school? And he ran the school like ex-public. And we had sort of teams, sort of Balliol and Andrew, and I didn't know what the bleeding know. Well, I've realised now they're sort of to do with public schools. And you were allotted to support, on sports day, you were allotted to support a team, like to support Andrew. Well, I don't like sport. I was crap at sport. I can't throw a ball, kick a ball, or catch a ball because I come from a non-sporty family. I've never had any interest in sport. So, and all the headmaster was interested in was to have trophies around his room to show off to bigwigs how marvellous the school does in sport. So in my school, if you didn't do well at sport, you were crap. They didn't want to know you, you know. And education, I think that was the last thing. But the deputy head, who didn't go to public school, he did all the crap work. He saw the complaining parents. He gave kids the cane. He did all the stuff, and Hart just sort of swanned about like a sort of, it was like a ghost. You'd see you never actually saw him face on. You always saw him disappearing into an office. And between you and I, he did fuck all, I think. And he just let the deputy head get on with it. You never saw him though, you know. So if I never got the cane, but if a kid had to go and get the cane, then it was always the deputy head that gave him six of the best or whatever. And no, and I don't think Hart really could understand that the school was not a grammar school, but a comprehensive school. He didn't like all these working class children, mixed as well, boys and girls. Must tell you this funny this is. When I was at school, there was some strike going on where there was a shortage of paper for some unknown reason. Can't remember. And if you needed to be excused to go to the lavvy, it was sacred. You must not leave the classroom to go for a piss or a shit. You know? Well, I was sitting, I think I don't know, some boiled eggs in the morning. I was dying for a crap. And I was sitting there. Hand up. Yes, teacher. Can I be excused? Number one or number two? Well, I didn't know what a number one or a number two was. So I gave the wrong figure, meaning I want to go and have a pee. And I said, I have some toilet paper. You won't be needing this, will you? And I need to take a poo. Oh, so she gave me, I think it was 3 sheets. And as my dad said in the army, you know, 1 up, 1 down, and 1 polish, you know, 3 sheets of little, you know, the Bronco toilet paper. It was like sort of, it was like sandpaper. Anyway, I went down to the toilet, you see, went into one of the traps, and there was a teacher there who missed his calling in life. He should have been an interrogator in the third world police. You know, he was so sadistic, this bloke. He was unbelievable. And he saw me go into the Kazi. He walked in. No, sorry. He saw me going to the Kazi. Where are you going, boy? See? So I'm going to the toilet. It was pretty obvious bleeding toilet paper in there, wasn't it? You'll have 1 minute. I will time you. And if you're not out in 1 minute, there will be big trouble. Do you understand, boy? So I walked in there and I was so frightened. My bowels sort of didn't. I couldn't go, even though I was like, so like a soppy sod, I flushed the toilet paper down the loo. Stupid. I should have put it in my pocket, shouldn't I? So anyway, went back into the class. Directly I sat there, the old stomach started turning. I needed to go and have a shit, you see. So anyway, I was sitting there, the sweat pouring off because you were not allowed to go twice. You had to shit yourself. And there was a girl that pissed herself in the class because this was several times. She said, can I be excused? No, wait until afterwards. She peed herself. So I don't know what they were so obsessed about. You know, well, how can you learn something if you're going for a piss or a shit? Anyway, I'm sitting there, sweat pouring off me. Suddenly the bell goes. I go cluttering out, go into the carsy. Oh, bloody get there and, you know, do some jobbies. No toilet paper. So what do I do? So I thought, necessity is the mother of invention. Looked in my school bag, and there was, of all things, a logbook. We used to go through log tables, you see, in those days. And there was some blank pages in it. So I ripped them out, sound like vandalism, and wiped my arse on them. But they were really thick paper. I mean, I don't know how old these logbooks were, but I mean, the amount of germs I must have been rubbing on my bum must have been incredible, because you think of 20, 30, 40, 50 years of kids sort of handling these pages. So anyway, I flushed the toilet and it clogged up. So I walked out, you know, sort of innocent, very relieved, I hate to do it. Later that day, I went to the toilet to see school janitor with a plunger in there. These bloody kids, when I was at school, we was any kid, somebody's any flush their exercise book or pages from it down this toilet. They're ungrateful, these kids, bloody vandals. So I own up, it was me. Right, let's go back into the old chat, and then I'll finish. Nah, it's not a dirty joke. A reasonable joke, shall we say. Right. Now let's go back here. Sorry if I don't read everybody's out. Blimey, we've got a lot here. Now, where are we? I've lost myself. So sorry if I miss a few, but I'm human. Right. Louise Wilcox. How many children won't recognise family members because of all the mask wearing? Very good point. Our grandchild cries at mask wearers. Yeah, it's yeah, that is sad. That is sad. Right, what have we got here? Eric Von Essex. You said that your parents' family lived in a council house. Have you ever considered that they would unlikely have been in that situation if it weren't for World War II? As a child, I was aware of that. Possible, yes. They had to fight like hell to get it, and that's another story. Because to get out, my parents were actually homeless after World War II. And sorry, I hope I haven't, because I know you've bought a book, and I hope I haven't spoilt the book there, Adrian. But no, I won't say any more because I don't want to spoil the book. But they had to fight like hell to get that house. So that was the house I was born in. Right. It was tracing paper Walter used to run off it. Oh, you talking about the toilet paper? Yeah. Do you remember the Bronco toilet paper? Yes. There we go. Always becomes laboratorial, this program, doesn't it? Right, here we go. What have we got here? I mean, I was thinking this morning that we're all walking around, we're all obeying. No, correction. The dimwits are obeying. We're not. And we're believing a load of bullshit. But when you look at the top of the pyramid, how many people do you think, I'm talking about the elite of the elite, the banksters, the Rothschilds of this world. How many do you think there are? I'm guessing there's several families. Let's say about 100, 200 maybe. How many of them? Not many. It's only a hand. I mean, it's a drop in the ocean. And then you've got the pyramid as it goes down. You've got, and it goes down to governments and things like that. But they are incredibly outnumbered. I mean, if everybody, as Henry Ford said, if people knew the truth, there'd be a revolution before tomorrow morning. 100% true. It's because we're being fed a pack of lies that people go along with the lies. But can you imagine if everybody rose up, their rule of terror would be ended like that. They wouldn't be able to tolerate it. They just wouldn't do it. I mean, they're outnumbered, but how many to one? I mean, there's what? 65, 68 million? Looking at Britain alone, there's 68 million in this country. America, I think it's about, 280 million, something like that. I mean, the odds are even higher in America. Imagine if the whole of them, people that everybody woke up in America and Britain, the elites would have to run like hell. But as I've often said, if there was an uprising, you would never see them. They would just disappear. And Tony Blair and that, he would disappear off the face of the earth. They'd do a Lord Lucan. Right, now what we got here? We got Ralph Winter. Of course, the one thing anybody that's frequented the ship would never forget is the smell of the tiny gents' loo. Yes, I found that out on a cross-channel ferry. Hang on, I'll put it on a little bit later. Cross-channel ferry in a false 10 gal once. Yes, it's yes, things do come up and down. Ever tried going to the loo in a false 10 gal? The ship was almost turning over, and we were the last. It was a day trip to Zeebrugge, and we were the last ship out. And the funny thing is that it was a famous storm. I don't know, but we was in the middle of the channel when this storm came up, and it was a cross-channel ferry, and we saw a German destroyer going into the port. They weren't sticking it, and this ship. Well, luckily I don't get seasickness. I'm lucky that. I think it might be something to do with being left-handed, because we use the opposite side of the brain. But the people are thrown up everywhere, and I need to go to the loo. But you try to go to the loo, and this thing's rolling around like everything. Crumbs, yes, it's quite interesting. Mind you, all I should have really done is just sort of. No, you couldn't actually get outside. You could open the door, but you would have been thrown overboard if you got outside. It was that rough. Anyway, things were tight because of World War II. You're quite right, Adrian. Very tight for some, shall we say. Right. Hello, Davambar. ISIL was the brand used in our school. Yeah, I used to use it in my school as well. Yeah, very much like tracing paper. We used to use it for tracing paper. Kids used to put their own work in ISIL toilet paper as tracing paper. Teacher got a bit upset about it. She contrary was ordinary people. I've probably told you this before. Yeah, I've got three. Well, they're dead now, but three uncles who were stand-up comedians, and they were very different humour. One was observational, one cracked gags, and the other one was very technical with his gags. And it was the eldest brother that was technical with his gags. So go and make a cup of tea if you heard it before. But this is true. Long before I was born, my parents went on holiday. I think it's cycling or something. With the eldest of my uncles, who's sadly now passed away. And my dad told me this, and it must have been early 50s, late 40s. And I think they cycled around Norfolk or somewhere. And at that time, the Salvation Army was very, very big. They had posters everywhere. And their campaign was Happy Soul. Okay? And you had people smiling, and the Salvation Army, it was probably their heyday. They were really, really big in those days. Anyway, they're cycling around. My uncle says to my dad, I must go and visit the Salvation Army. He said, I didn't know he was religious. Oh, he said, is there a Salvation Army around here somewhere? still puzzled. And even his wife sort of went, huh? Yeah, he said, must see to be at Salvation Army. He said, Salvation Army? He says, yeah. He said, I need to go to the loo. He said, happy soul, happy soul. And from there on, in my family, if you need to go to the loo, you'd say, I must go and visit the Salvation Army. Happy soul. Yeah, all right. Anyway, let's read a few more out, and then I'll disappear until Wednesday. Yippee. What have we got here? Shitty ass lockdown lovers would love reusable TP. Yeah, toilet paper. Yeah, they would. I like the way they were fighting over toilet paper. It's just unbelievable. Yes. Then what have we got here? Tony Blair would most likely go to where Savile and Jenner went to, a criminal hideout in the Middle East. Yeah. I believe that as well, Adrian. I really do. You remember when I've got to be careful because he's still alive. I wouldn't say who, but I always say, I'm Tommy Kangaroo down sport. Well, mate of mine said, when he was convicted in court, he written that he went out the court and then straight to Heathrow Airport and on the plane to the Barbados or somewhere and spent most of his time on the beach there. Don't know, but I've got to be a bit careful what I say, Anyway, talking about where people go, in the future, you see, people have woken up and they decided to, the judge gives Hancock and Boris, puts the old black handkerchief on his head and says, you will be taken from this court on the charge of treason and crimes against humanity and hung by the neck until you are dead. So anyway, one by one, and they end up in hell, you see, and the devil's seeing them there. And they said, he said, hello. He said, you got a chance, he said, to go back on Earth. He said, and, you can achieve your ambition of mass genocide. So I went, yeah, lovely. Ooh, a bit of that. He said, but you've got to pass a test first. He said, really? He said, yeah. He said, hands out buckets to Boris, Hancock, Brad Whitty, the rest of them. Says, right, I'll put you back on Earth temporarily and you've got to empty the Thames with a bucket. Okay? So anyway, they go down and they're batting away like anywhere, And they're in the tidal part of the Thames and the old tide goes out and they think they've cracked it. They, bloody hell, we've done it. So the devil comes down and they say, well, we've done it. And suddenly the blatant tide's coming back in again. So he said, you did try hardest, but he said, you've got another possibility. He says, Mr. Hancock and the rest of you, if you can go back on Earth and convince everyone that your statistics are 100% correct. He said, oh, sod it, give me bucket back. Anyway, that's a crap joke, isn't it? Anyway, I'll say good night to you. And thank you for joining me. Sorry about those blackouts and what was going on earlier. I don't know what was going on. Bloody strange. I think the powers that be are onto me now. And remember, whatever happens, have a laugh. Keep laughing. Because remember, that's what brought Ceausescu down. We got a laugh at them. And thank you very much for joining me. Join me again on Wednesday at 6 o'clock with Caroline Stevens. And we're looking at eugenics. And we've been looking into a lot of other areas. And before I go, I will give you a recap of the similarities thing. So see if you can guess it. What is the similarity between Hancock, Flat Earth bloke, the moon landings, so-called, and Finzi? Hang on, I always get his name wrong. Kinsey. I was calling him Finzi for some unknown reason. That's it. Kinsey, or Kinky Kinsey as I call him, because I've been doing some research into him. Quite interesting. So to find the answer to that, tune in Wednesday, 6 o'clock UK time. And also join me back here next Monday at 8 o'clock. And if you like what we do, I live off my savings and that, and it's so if you want to buy me a cup of coffee, there's details down below. But if you think I'm good enough, and I look forward to seeing you next Wednesday. Have a good week. Thank you for joining me, and good night.